Blender offers the user interface and set of tools for digital sculpting. They are at par with the most of the competitive softwares. So I thought to make a series on digital sculpting, and I'll be sharing a playlist. And in this playlist, you can see the total workflow of digital sculpting and painting tools which this Blender is going to offer. So let's get started. So let's start with the digital sculpting in the Blender software. For that, the first thing I would like to do is we have the sculpting menu and we can switch to the sculpting interface here and we can start sculpting. However, you can go to the file and when you choose the sculpting, this brings up an exclusive interface for the sculpting, because if you could see there are a few menu options which are like there here, but if I go to the file new and sculpting, you end up losing all those menus and then you can start working on your sculpting tool. However, you can click that plus and then bring up your favorite menu which you want there. So I would like to leave like that only. And I would like to talk about the very first tool which we use in the sculpting is the draw brush. I can just click and drag and see the names of the brushes here. And I can access whatever the brush we have in the hand, or we can pick them from here. So draw brush is mainly used not for sculpting, but to put some alphas and textures in the maps. So but again, we use it to add some details of sculptures, but not for the sculpting. Actually, for the details we can use them. So I'm going to use this option here called mirror X, and then when I click and drag, you should be able to see I'm getting the sculpting on both sides of the model in the X axis. Okay, so that's not really important at this point, but okay, I'm going to use that. Now what I'm going to do is we have this option called radius and strength, but before going into that, so when I just click and drag the brush over the geometry, you should be able to see the polygons are generally pulled out of the surface. That adds that lumps over that, or that surface relief over the model, which gives you a feel of as if you're really adding volume to your model. However, you can hold control and then just do the subtractive sculpting, where you are actually removing the details. One thing I should really talk about, that is there are two types of sculptings in real world. One is like you got a stone and then you start removing the material from the stone to sculpt it, and you have another type of sculpting like clay sculpting, where you keep adding material to it. So subtractive sculpting and additive sculpting. So let's say if you want to do that additive sculpting, you can just click and start adding that material to it. And you want to remove something, you can hold control and then start removing it. So digital sculpting offers you a hybrid way of, like, you can, if you wish to add, you can add it. If you want to remove it, you can remove the clay from the model. And you can also do that by using these two buttons here. So plus buttons adds the clay and minus button removes the clay or pushes it. Push, and then you got the pull option here. Okay, or you can use control to do that. It toggles between push and pull of the vertex points. The next important thing is we have the radius option. The radius option is going to offer you the size of the brush. So I'm going to do that on the other side. So we have the bracket signs where I can sculpt it when I can click and drag it to get a very thin line. And then if I start increasing the brush radius, you get a thick stroke there. Okay, you have the radius slider here. You can just click and drag and you can increase and get a bigger brush. Click and drag and you can get a thinner brush. So one option is like you can do it from here in the radius section, or you can use the brackets. You can also press F on the keyboard and then increase the brush size, okay, or decrease the brush size. You can also control the brush size by pressing F on the keyboard and then enter numerical value. Like if I want a 15 size brush, I can press 15 and then you get a 15 size brush there. You need to press F and then 25, you get a 25 size brush there. Okay, then you have the strength here, which is the amount of displacement you're getting there. So strength of 1 is displacing a lot, where the strength of 0.1 is giving a very subtle displacement over the model. So to get a result, I have to rub it so many times there. To control the strength of the brush with the keyboard shortcut, you need to press Shift F and then click and drag there. That gives you the strength. So I got a strength of 1 and I got the strength of, whatever the value is. I can do that from the numerics also. Press Shift F and then enter 0.5 and then you get a value for that particular strength. Okay. There is some important feature that is in brush. You could see view and scene. So let me just zoom out and you should be able to see the brush is way bigger in relation with the sphere size. But when I generally come close, now the brush size is way smaller in comparison with this sphere. Okay, I'm not changing the brush size, but I'm zooming it out to get different brush sizes over the model. Okay, this is sort of view dependent. Now the next one is the scene one. So if I've put a radius of, let's say, 0.5 and then start sculpting, and then when I zoom out and then sculpt again and zoom out, sculpt again, or zoom in, sculpt again, you get the same size because you're setting up this size in relation with the scene. So if I increase the radius of 1, okay, it's 1 there, and the brush size stays the same, okay, in terms of the brush. So that's something really important when you're dealing with the brush. Okay, sometimes it will be of a great help. The next thing I would like to talk about is the stabilize stroke option. So this one will actually I've actually accessed the smooth brush by pressing S. So I want to get back my draw brush. I'm pressing V on the keyboard, so that brings up the draw brush, and I'm going to reduce the brush size to smaller and then Shift F to increase the strength. Then you get that nice stroke. Okay, so we have this stabilizer stroke or lazy mouse option. So if I just click and drag, you get a stroke. But when you enable this stabilize stroke, you get a red line, and then after certain time of you have dragged the cursor, the strokes start building up. Now this will end up giving you a steady stroke. When you're when you want to draw some curves, and the curve should be very steady or very neat in terms of the result, then you need to use this steady stroke option. You have the radius option which controls the size of that red line. If you increase that one, you get a bigger line, and bigger lines are basically for a bigger radius shapes, and smaller one gives you control over the smaller circles. Okay, when you have to draw smaller circles, going for a bigger stroke makes no sense there. So that stroke size is really important when it comes to controlling the result.